All right, I am in my mini farm here and I'm using the plants to block off some of the wind because it is quite windy, so I need to be audible. However, the video is about the herbs that you can plant in March, especially in South Africa. March is part of the fall or autumn season. And as we all know, herbs are amazing when it comes to um, boosting the flavor of our meats, our vegetable dishes, our soups, and our sauces. And not to mention, they really play a vital role when it comes to the healing medicinal properties that they have that really assists and helps the body with a lot of ailments that we have. So, in this video, I'm going to be showing you the herbs that I will be planting that are ideal to be planted around March in South Africa. So, please do stay tuned. And yes, before I go, tip. A few weeks ago, I actually planted vegetables on the ground, seeds on the ground. I'll link a video about the veggies that I planted, which are ideal to plant in the autumn or fall season. However, and unfortunately so, we've been having a lot of rain. And the thing about rain, which is it's good for your crops. However, if you start seedlings on the ground and you encounter a lot of rain, the seeds tend not to make it. So most of them really died off. So because of that, I ended up saying, okay, let me start some of the herbs in the lab and I would plant some as well on the ground. So as these are growing, the ones that I started on the pots, as they are growing, hopefully the ones that we start on the ground as well will start getting traction. But then if it does happen, we encounter more of the rain, at least I know that I have seedlings that are now strong enough to be able to withstand whatever it is. So as we speak, the plants that I planted for February, I am replanting again for March because it's still the fall season. They are still applicable. If you haven't watched the video, please, I will link it up here. Do watch the video and see the kind of vegetables that you can plant in the fall or autumn season. However, for this video, we are doing herbs. So sorry for the long introduction, but then yeah, I just wanted to just put it out there and make you guys aware that when you start seeds on the ground and there is a lot of rain, there is a chance that your seeds might die off, which is a con. But then the pros would always be possibly as you put them on the ground, maybe have a few that you start in your pots as well to just mitigate this whole thing. Phew, that was such a long introduction. Sorry about that. Right, let's get into it. This is the biggest patch that I have around my veggie patch. Previously, I had onion in here. I actually planted onion for spring and summer, and that is thunder. I'm not sure whether to continue or stop because it seems like it's going to rain. However, if I do continue, I might actually maybe wait for about 3-4 hours before I actually properly water this bed. I'm just going to give it a squeeze after I'm done. But then yeah, I previously had onion here and I just cultivated the space for all my herbs. And even though I am aware that you can companion plant the herbs with all the other vegetables that are in the patch, at the moment it's more for me of creating a herb patch where all my herbs would be, and as and when they grow I would start taking from them and replanting them amongst the vegetables. And also let me just show you, these are some of the onions that were underneath that I managed to forage from the space. Well, they are quite tiny, however they would do. So what I am going to do now is, as soon as I'm done, I am going to put them on a rack to cure them, that is drying them. Then we will definitely add them to consumption. And most of them, it's actually your red onions. You know how expensive red onions are. Well, we do have our whites as well, and a little bit of spring. So I'm going to cut off the spring onions that are still feasible and enough to chow and use those in the house probably today or tomorrow. But then I'm going to cure these, dry them, then they would be ready for consumption. And these are actually the ones that I didn't harvest when I was harvesting my onion, because I was actually harvesting the onion as and when I need it. But then as I was digging, this is what came out. So we're quite happy. We have a handful of onions. So let's start with our herbs. But first, let me show you one that I'm not going to plant because I have, and it has been around for quite a few years. All right, I had to come to the other side of the garden that you guys normally don't see, but then as you can see, this is my rosemary. Let's start here. As you can see, it has like literally nicely rooted and it's growing beautifully here. I hardly attend to it. This is that part of the garden that I seldom visit. I hardly visit and I hardly attend to the rosemary. That's a nice thing about rosemary that you need to keep in mind. It is one of the herbs that can withstand a lot of sun, and it can withstand funny conditions, and as you can see, it's still nicely flowering. I use it mostly for my chicken dishes, and it is amazing. Other than my chicken dishes, I actually use it as a concussion in my hair food and also as part of my scrubs. I think I do have a video about me creating a hand scrub. Very low maintenance, doesn't bother anyone. Or another cool trick about the rosemary, actually the stalks, right? You can actually use them as your, when you're doing your, what you call these things? When you're supposed to remember something and you forget. When you're doing your braais and all of that, you can use these to prick your meat and put skews. Yes, barbecue skews. You can use it as the skewers in your barbecue, and because there is the rosemary flavor in them, they work amazing. So instead of using just your ordinary picks, you can actually use the rosemary stems as your skews. All right, so yeah, let's go back. Cool. Wormwood is a very medicinal herb. It reminds me of my grandmother. She actually used to take the leaves of the wormwood and actually boil them and let us drink that, especially at the onset of symptoms like flu. It is very ideal, especially in the winter time, to just ward off the flu-like symptoms. It does beautifully in full sun and well-drained soil. And ideally it grows up to about 150 centimeter. And ideally, also the nice thing about it is that you can actually thin it and plant it in other spaces. So it's just one of those beautiful handy plants to have, especially when you have children around. It's very good for warding off flu. It shrubs in most cases, and it is, like I said, used to treat respiratory ailments, flu-like symptoms, and whenever you just feel the onset of a cough, just clip a little bit of the leaves, boil them, and drink it like tea. It tastes very bitter, but it does the work. And just next to the wormwood, I planted sage. Sage is one of the plants that I really love, because first of all, it is drought and frost resistant, and it thrives in a range of different conditions, even in poor soil. Sage is just one of those herbs that really are resistant. A fun fact: you can actually grind the leaves of sage and mix them with your cleaning water. It is said to be one of the herbs that really works around the energy of your space. So if in your household you feel like there's and some energies that you are not understanding, by all means grind your sage and mix it with your cleaning water. It just does amazing stuff to raise the energy of the space. So yeah, I just love it, and it just tastes amazing in your food as well. Then we have basil. Basil pairs very excellent with your tomato pestos, and it is amazing when you actually add it to your pasta dishes. It just has that beautiful flavor that really gels nicely with your tomatoes and your tomato pastes. And the thing about basil also to note is that it sprouts very quickly, especially if you plant it under warm conditions. As you can see, I've actually had two that are different, but then these are perennials. There's a lot of different basil types that you can find. Some don't do well around this time, but then these two, specifically the two that I've actually seeded on the ground, are the ones that can tolerate a little bit of cold and frost. So I actually planted these two, and in between I planted one that is the one that is not flowering. Yes, there is the flowering one and the one that is not flowering. So in between I planted more of the one that is not flowering. And the nice thing also, which is a tip for you to actually extract a lot more of flavor from your herbs, just make sure that now and then you nip off the flowers, because when you nip off the flowers, you actually encourage the leaves to get a more dense and much tastier aroma, and it just makes your herbs taste amazing. They grow well under sunshine, and it really, like I said, doesn't like winter. But the perennial ones have stood the test of time. It's just the other kinds that really tend to die off when it's winter time. So because now we are still in autumn, and as soon as they get traction, there is a huge chance that they can withstand the frost. And here I have two types of chives. Chives are from the onion family, and the one that I've actually started planting first here, it's the medium-leaved chive, of which the leaves are very much edible, and it is actually very nice in your dishes as well. So if you want to add that aroma that almost tastes like garlic, it would be ideal to just add chives in there. They grow up to about 30 centimeters in height. They enjoy full sun, and also they take on well-drained soil. And the thing about them is that you need to harvest them regularly in order to encourage new growth. So it's just one of those herbs that whenever you are in the kitchen, you can just come and nip, and the more you nip, the more it grows. And the other one, which looks a little bit bushy, it's actually called the garlic chives. The thing about it that I need for you to really be mindful of is that it is not climbing, it actually needs support for it to grow up steady and upright. It needs some form of trellising. So as soon as you start seeing them really pick up, you might want to actually just reinforce them by putting some sort of support so that the vines can climb. And that would also improve the circulation of air and reduce the risk of diseases. It is very yummy because especially in your culinary dishes, it is just amazing. And it has a maturing fruit, so as it grows, it actually grows fruits as well, and those are very edible and they are quite nice as well. And in the middle, I actually added more of the medium-leaved chive so that as and when we are busy eating from these ones, the rest can be growing. And here we have parsley. I actually have two different kinds. It is the Italian parsley and the curled moss parsley. The curled moss parsley is the one that looks very green. And the nice thing about it is that it is a biannual herb. Actually, both of them are biannual herb, meaning they don't do very well when you plant them in winter. You can plant them throughout all the other seasons except for winter. And starting with the Italian parsley, when you actually take a close look at it, it looks almost like the celery stick, right? However, it has darker green leaves, so that's how you can actually distinguish the two. It is a very nice and tall plant, and it is actually one of the parsleys that grow vigorously. And like with all the other herbs, the more you snip, the more you are encouraging the growth. Then this other one that I have here, which is the curled moss parsley. When you actually look at it, it looks very crinkled up and curled. It has this beautiful green color to it. And the thing about it that I know for a fact is if you let the flowers go without being cut, it quickly goes into seeding. So you need to just make sure that you keep nipping the flowers off. And as we all know, parsley is awesome in salads, sauces, and mostly I think in fish dishes it does exceptionally well. And as you all know, we literally widely use it for garnish in our dishes. And yeah, so what I've done here actually is I actually planted the curled moss and the Italian, and I seeded more of the Italian on the ground because at least I still have about 2 months before winter. So hopefully by then it would have nicely sprouted and we would be eating from it as well. Then we move to one of my favorites, thyme. Whether you pronounce it thyme or thyme, that's totally up to you. The one thing I really love about this herb is that it is also a perennial herb, and it is actually a low growing herb. So it like has a very low length, and in most cases it is used, or you can actually use it to fence around, or what you call this, for lack of a better explanation, you can actually use it to border your patches with, as a form of protection from bugs and all of that. And the one that I am actually planting here, it is the one that is called the lemon thyme. And the thing about it is that it has almost a lemon like smell, and it just the scent is just amazing. And the other thing I know about thyme also is that mostly in spring and summer they tend to like give off flowers. They bloom with these beautiful flowers depending on the type that you have. There's a range of colors, and ideally it works amazing when you mix it with your butter to flavor your foods. Okay, the love-hate relationship I have with mint. Mint makes the most excellent tea. But please, if there's like literally nothing that you take from this video, please just take this one thing. When it comes to mint, if it is not properly contained, it can like literally run havoc on your garden. Because the thing about it is that when it roots, the roots vine almost like the vines of grass roots, and you can like literally plant it here, and within a few months it would have creeped under the ground to a few meters away from where you initially planted it. And once it just gets a chance, it just sprouts. And once it sprouts, it can like literally take over your patch. So ideally, as you can see, as I'm doing here, you want to do your uttermost to contain it. And the best possible way to actually do that is to actually have your mint plants in pots, ideally a terracotta pot. But then for me at this moment, I didn't have a terracotta pot, and when I actually looked at the pot that I felt like was ideal, only to find out that it had a hole, so I had to improvise. But then how I'm actually also putting it on the ground, I am making sure that I can like literally easily pick up the pot, and if by any chance the roots have somehow creeped, I can actually like literally just nip it in the bud, So whatever it is that you do, if you really want to have peace of mind in your yard, take this advice. This is the top tip in this whole entire video. Contain your mint if you want to live longer. And the variety that I actually have here, it's the one that is called mint chocolate, because when you smell it, it actually almost smells like chocolate. I do have another one in the house, which is, I think it's the spearmint, and I just love it so much because it just works amazing when you actually do your mint sauces. So yeah, that's all I'm gonna say to you about mint. Contain. If you contain it and you just take care of it, it will love you forever, because it is a perennial, and if it's well taken care, it would literally just die down and come back up, and die down and come back up. So it is one of those plants that are really easy to maintain as well. They just love to vine and vine and vine and just take over all the spaces. So just make sure that you contain your mint, and you trim and prune and trim and prune, because even as you can see, I actually have it in a container, but then once it becomes big enough to actually creep out of the top of the container, it will like literally find a way whereby it can vine back to the ground and start rooting. Be careful of mint. And just next to the mint, I have planted the oregano. We all know it is very good when it comes to herbal medicines, and it is a culinary herb as well that you can use in the kitchen. It does well in full sun as well, and it also tolerates well-drained soil. It can grow up to about 60 centimeters, and the thing about it is that once it starts flowering, then that's when you can actually start not cutting, but then like pruning it and to shape, so that you also encourage new growth. So at the moment, as you can see, it's still like nicely taking out the leaves, but then once it actually starts flowering, you nip the flowers and you just cut it nice into shape, so that it doesn't take over the space that it's in. And with herbs, the more you cut, the more you prune, the more you encourage growth, and the more you do of that, the more of the flavor really comes up to the plant itself, and you get to enjoy the taste that it comes with. And yeah, this one, the stevia, there is so much controversy around the stevia that I really am not going to go into. But a stevia is like literally your substitute for sugar. So if you're somebody that has a sweet tooth, this is a plant that you can actually go to. Not too much of it. By all means, please, not too much of it. Like literally, if you just nip one leaf and you put it in your tea or your coffee, it just takes out so much of the sweetness you really would not believe. And it is also believed that it has medicinal properties as well. I am not sure about that. It's not something that I really have gone into, but then it has always been something that I go to whenever I feel like, I really want to cut down on this refined sugar thing. And like I said, literally a petal of a leaf petal from the plant goes a long way. As long as you don't overdo it, I think this is just one of the superb plants that you can have around you. You harvest the leaves. Like I say, the leaves act like your sugar because they are a natural sweetener, and you just make sure that you keep doing that before it actually starts flowering, so that the more you actually nip of it, the more you encourage the sweetness of the plant to really go into the leaves and just do its thing. It also enjoys full sunlight, and it takes on well to well-drained soil. So yeah, this is just one of those that you would just thank yourself if you really want to cut down on sugar. Then second last on my list is the coriander. The coriander, the leaves are edible. You use it in cooking. You dry it off, you make your spices. We are happy, life goes on. It enjoys full sunlight and at times partly shady places, it will do wonders as well. And for you to actually encourage it to grow, you just make sure that you regularly harvest from the plant itself, because the more you do that, the more growth it will give to you. The thing about the coriander, though, is that it's one of those herbs that literally has a very short lifespan in the garden. So once it says, I am not here anymore, it says it's not here anymore. And that's the long and short of it. And last but not least on my list is the rocket. Rocket works amazing in your salads, especially if you want that little bit of bitterness to add to your lettuce. By all means, please do have yourself some wild rocket added to the dish. It almost has this strongish pepper taste that really gives that spunk to your salads. So if you want a little bit of that, by all means, enjoy your rocket in your salads. It also prefers full sun, and it's one of those that really, to be quite frank, can grow in poor soil conditions, and it can tolerate dry conditions. So it is, fun enough, even though it pairs very well with lettuce, when it comes to growing it, it can withstand conditions that a lot of lettuces can't. So yeah, you sow your seeds with regards to the rocket in succession. And I actually also didn't mention that when it comes to the the coriander as well. You sow your seeds in succession because also it is a herb that has a short lifespan. So by all means, if you want to have it growing continuously throughout the seasons, you ought to be planting it in succession. And yeah, that is it, and that is the list of all the herbs that I have planted in my garden for the month of March. By all means, I would really love to know which are your go-to herbs when it comes to planting in your garden, and possibly why, so that I can maybe, as time goes on, dabble into those as well and see how I can best fit them in my space. And please do not forget to share the video, like the video, comment, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't. I would really appreciate that, and I will see you next week with another video. Ciao Bella.